The capital of Westeros was tense. The banners of the Starks hung beside the golden lions of the Lannisters, but behind those cloths, swords were ready to be drawn. Ned Stark, Hand of the King, sat in his solo with a heavy mind. His honor told him that the Lannisters were dangerous Cersei's ambition, Jaime's arrogance, and Tywin's cold ruthlessness. Yet the Seven Kingdoms stood at the edge of war, and Robert Baratheon was no longer strong enough to hold it together. Ned asked himself a question that tore at his very nature. What if peace could be made, even with lions? The chance came when Lord Tywin sent a letter. The words were sharp, but also calculating. Tywin offered marriage bonds, trade promises, and even military support for the North if Ned would step back from accusing Cersei of treachery. It was no small offer piece. For the realm, protection for Winterfell, and a chance to avoid rivers of blood. Ned read the letter a dozen times, his jaw tight. Honor said expose the truth. Duty whispered save the North. In council, Ned spoke carefully. If war comes, it will burn not only the South, but the North as well. Perhaps a different road must be taken. His words shocked Renly and Stannis, but Petyr Baelish only smiled that sly smile. He knew compromise could be as deadly as swords. Cersei herself was startled when Ned came to her chambers, not with threats, but with an agreement. He would not reveal her children's secret yet. In exchange, the Lannisters would withdraw their men from the Riverlands, send gold to repair villages, and respect northern lands. It was an uneasy truce, sealed not by trust but by necessity. Robert, tired of politics, praised his old friend. Gods, Ned, at least you keep the peace when I can't. But Robert had no idea of the true bargain. For the first time in weeks, the city breathed easier. Small folk spoke of markets reopening, and soldiers returned to their posts instead of sharpening their blades for civil war. But in the shadows, others whispered that peace with lions was no peace at all. The wolves of the North and the lions of the Rock might stand side by side for now. Ned Stark knew the truth. Every truce was fragile. He had bought time, not safety, and time was a weapon both sides could use. The truce between wolf and lion spread whispers across the realm. Lords in the Riverlands were uneasy, for they had already tasted the claws of Lannister raiders. Lord Hoster Tully, weakened by illness, questioned his son. Catelyn begged Ned in private, "You have chosen peace, but have you chosen wisely? How can we trust the lions who already drew blood from my father's bannermen?" Ned held her hands and spoke quietly. "If war comes too soon, we will bleed more. Better to wait, better to strengthen the North." At King's Landing, the Lannisters adjusted quickly to this new balance. Cersei, sharp and cunning, hid her suspicion behind a mask of courtesy. She welcomed Sansa warmly, showering her with gifts and promises of queenship. Even Arya was given lessons in needlework, by order of the Queen, though the girl resisted fiercely. Yet behind her smiles, Cersei whispered to Jaime, "Stark may be quiet now, but he has teeth. When the right moment comes, he must be broken." Lord Tywin was far from silent. From Casterly Rock, he sent shipments of gold to the capital, ensuring bread for the hungry and wine for the court. His message was clear: the lion provides when others cannot. The small folk began to see Lannisters as saviors, even as their soldiers marched heavily through the countryside. Ned watched this carefully, knowing Tywin never gave without expecting repayment. But Ned Stark was not idle. His letters flew north, calling on Winterfell to prepare. Robb drilled the men, and even little Bran practiced with bow and arrow more often. The North would smile at peace in the South, but their walls would stand ready for betrayal. Maester Luwin reminded Robb, "Your father has not abandoned honor, he has postponed it. When truth is revealed, steel will be needed." Meanwhile, Littlefinger slithered closer to Ned, offering sly words. "You've made peace with lions, Lord Stark. But you must remember, lions and wolves share no den for long. When the lions strike, who will the Starks call? I could be your ally." Ned distrusted him, but he knew Pettia spoke truth about one thing: the game was not finished. The calm in King's Landing grew thinner with each passing day. Renly urged Robert to name a clear heir. Stannis brooded, already suspicious of Cersei's children. Varys moved softly, gathering secrets like a spider in his web. Every step of peace was surrounded by silent daggers. Ned Stark returned to his chambers one night and looked at his daughters sleeping. He thought of the blood that could have already been spilled and whispered to himself, "I have kept them safe for now." Yet in his heart he knew a storm was still waiting beyond the walls. Weeks passed, and King's Landing wore its mask of peace. Feasts returned to the Red Keep, musicians filled the halls, and the markets thrived again. To the small folk, the truce between wolf and lion seemed like a blessing. But inside the court, silence was heavy, for no one forgot the unspoken truth. Hiding in the shadows, Ned Stark spent more time with Robert. The king, drunk and weary, often laughed at the miracle that his hand had pulled off. "You kept the wolves and lions from ripping each other apart, Ned," Robert said, slamming his cup on the table. "But tell me, Trude, you trust them?" Ned's eyes lowered. "I trust only the North. The rest is survival." Sansa, in her innocence, began to dream more brightly of her marriage to Joffrey. The boy played his part, smiling politely under his mother's watch, though cruelty still lingered behind his eyes. Arya, on the other hand, grew restless. She disliked the new friendship with the Lannisters. She trained in secret with Syrio Forel, her water dancing lessons sharper and fiercer each day. "The lion waits until prey grows soft," Syrio told her, "but a wolf must never lose its edge." Catelyn returned briefly to King's Landing, bringing news from the Riverlands. Lord Hoster's health declined, and tensions remained. Though the Lannisters pulled back their men as promised, their banners still lingered near the borders, a silent warning. Catelyn looked at her husband and whispered, "They will come again, Ned. You know they will." Meanwhile, Lord Tywin's letters to Cersei grew bolder. He urged her to strengthen Joffrey's claim and prepare for any who might question his birth. Cersei read the words with pride, convinced that their family's destiny was greater than any wolf's dream of honor. Jaime, ever loyal to his sister, swore to cut down anyone who uncovered the truth. But it was not only lions and wolves who plotted. Stannis Baratheon had begun gathering whispers about the royal children. His eyes were sharp, and his suspicion grew each time he looked upon Joffrey's golden hair. Renly too was scheming, seeking allies for his own chance at power, and in the shadows, Varys listened to all sides, weaving his quiet web. Ned knew. The truce could not last forever. It was a candle burning at both ends, providing light for a while, but destined to melt away. One evening, he walked through the godswood of the Red Keep, looking at the heart tree's carved face. He whispered, as if to the old gods themselves, "If I have sinned by choosing peace over truth, let the price fall on me, not on my children." Yet fate, as ever in Westeros, had already begun moving its pieces, and the first crack in the fragile Peace was closer than Ned imagined. The first crack appeared not in the capital, but in the riverlands. A band of Sellswords, flying no banners, struck a Tully village and left it burning. The Lannisters swore no part in it, but the scars of their earlier raids were fresh. Rumours spread like wildfire. Tywin tests the truce. Catelyn sent word to Ned, urging him to see the danger. At the council table, Renly spoke hotly. How many villages must burn before we admit the lions cannot be trusted? Stannis said nothing, but his silence was sharper than steel. Littlefinger leaned forward, smirking. Perhaps these were only bandits. Or perhaps someone wants you to believe the truce is broken. Peace is a game of shadows, my lords. Varys, in his soft tone, agreed. Yes, perhaps another hand moves. These pawns. Ned's jaw tightened. He wanted to send riders to investigate, but Robert was already red-faced with anger. 7 hells. Can't they keep the bloody peace? He roared. He ordered an inquiry, but left the matter to his hand. Ned saw clearly. Robert's strength was gone. The king's crown was nothing but a heavy chain now. Meanwhile, in the Red Keep, tension spread among the younger ones. Sansa still dreamed of her golden prince, clinging to every courtesy Joffrey offered. Arya, however, spat at the very idea of Lannister friendship. She told her father boldly, "They will turn on us, sooner or later. I'd rather face them with needle than with a smile." Ned saw Lyanna's spirit in her words and felt the sting of memory. Cersei sensed the unrest. She gathered her children close, whispering that wolves were treacherous and that lions must always strike first. Jaime, restless and proud, began pressing her. Better to end Stark now, before he grows bold again. But Cersei stayed her brother's hand. No, not yet. So long as Stark bites his tongue, he is useful. Letters from Winterfell spoke. Of Robb's preparations, the boy trained daily, commanding men twice his age with a steady hand. Catelyn's fears reached him, and though he honored his father's decision, his blood burned at the thought of lions lurking in the shadows. If they break faith, Robb told his bannermen, the North will answer. In the capital, Ned visited the city watch, strengthening their loyalty with promises of better pay. He could not be certain who would stand with him when the storm came, but he would not be caught unprepared. Even as he walked carefully, he felt eyes on him, spies of Cersei, whispers of Varys, and the sly glances of Baelish. The peace still held, but it was a house of glass, trembling with every gust of wind. And soon, one heavy blow would shatter it completely. The peace that Ned Stark had crafted now hung by a thread. To the common folk in King's Landing, the markets bustled and the taverns sang once more. They spoke of the hand of the king as a wise man who tamed the lions. Yet in the corridors of power, every lord and lady sharpened daggers in secret. Word reached the Red Keep that more raids had struck in the Riverlands. Though no lion banners were seen, the victims swore the men carried Lannister steel. Ned summoned the council and demanded answers. Cersei denied the charges with cool contempt. "Are we to be blamed for every thief that swings a sword?" she asked, her eyes locked on Ned's. "Perhaps some in the Riverlands seek to stir hate against my house. Would you cast away peace so icily, Lord Stark?" Ned's anger burned, but he remembered his daughters and the North. He chose silence, yet the silence wounded him, for he had never been a man to swallow truth. Littlefinger leaned close, whispering, "With amusement, every time you bite your tongue, you give them power. How long before the lion grows bold enough to eat the wolf whole? Outside the council chamber, Varys found Ned in the shadows. "You seek to hold the realm together, my lord. But the realm is a wheel, always turning. The Lannisters seek to rise higher, and wheels crush what lies beneath." Ned frowned. "And what do you want?" Varys smiled softly. "Peace for the people. Always peace. But peace is made stronger with secrets. Perhaps you should guard yours carefully, and watch theirs more closely." That night, Ned sent trusted men quietly into the city, searching for whispers about the royal children. What he feared remained true. More than one spoke of their golden hair, their sharp features, so unlike Robert, the truth he had buried. For peace still circled him like a wolf in the dark. Meanwhile, Robert himself grew restless. His hunts became longer, his drinking heavier. He laughed at the idea of politics, leaving all burdens to Ned. "You're the one who wanted peace, old friend," he said, clapping Ned on the shoulder. "Keep the wolves and lions from tearing each other's throats, and maybe I'll live long enough to drink myself to death." Ned saw the ruin in those words, but said nothing. He carried Robert's crown more than the king did. In the north, Robb Stark's letters grew sharper. "Father, we train each day. Winterfell is ready. If the lions strike, we will not falter. Do not let them believe the wolf has grown tame." Ned read the words in silence, pride and sorrow mingling. His son was becoming a man while he stood chained by the politics of the South. Catelyn, too, pressed him. "This truce will not last. Tywin Lannister waits for weakness. Every smile Cersei gives hides a knife. The children, the secret, it will destroy all you seek to protect." Ned held her hands and whispered, "I know. But if I move too soon, we will be drowned in fire and blood." In the Red Keep, Cersei gathered her family. She spoke to Joffrey with steel in her voice. "Do not be fooled by Stark's silence. He is no friend. He will use peace until it suits him to strike. You must be ready to rule with strength, not softness." Joffrey smirked, eager for cruelty. Jaime only laughed, yet even he felt unease. The court itself divided quietly. Some lords praised Stark for keeping war away, but others muttered that the North's honor was being sold too cheaply. To them, peace with lions was betrayal. The seeds of doubt spread, and Ned began to see that by choosing peace, he had also chosen suspicion from both friend and foe. One evening, walking in the godswood of the Red Keep, Ned knelt before the carved face of the Widowwood. The city was restless, the council dangerous, the king weak, and his family caught in the middle. He prayed in silence, "Old gods, guide me. If I must bear dishonor to keep them safe, then let it be mine alone. But do not let them suffer for my choice." But even as he prayed, riders galloped through the night toward the capital. They carried news that would not only shake his fragile truce, but threaten the very peace he had sacrificed his honor to hold. The storm was coming. The storm broke with blood in the river. Riders reached the Red Keep at dawn, their cloaks heavy with dust and their faces grim. They brought word that Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, had led a host of men in open raids. Villages burned, small folk slaughtered, and Tully banners trampled. Into mud, the truce that Ned had worked so hard to hold together now lay in ashes. In the council chamber, the lords erupted. Renly slammed his hand on the table. "How much longer will we pretend Tywin Lannister honors peace?" Stannis' voice cut like iron. "This is no banditry. It is war hidden under a mask." Littlefinger smirked, enjoying the chaos. "Perhaps the lions merely grow hungry and hungry beasts must feed. All eyes turned to Ned. He rose slowly, his face carved in stone. If this is true, then Sir Gregor must answer for his crimes. Send for him, strip him of lands and titles, let him face justice before the realm. Cersei's eyes narrowed like a dagger. And who dares strip a Lannister's sworn sword, Lord Stark? You overstep, but Robert, weary and drunk, surprised them all. Slamming his cup down, he barked, "A dog who burns villages is no knight of mine. Let him be summoned, and if time takes offence, then let him take it up with me." His words carried the weight of a king, though his resolve was drowned in wine. Still, Ned seized the moment. For once, justice had been ordered. Yet beneath the surface, the game grew darker. Tywin would not answer such an insult with silence. Even as ravens flew from King's Landing, Lannister riders gathered in secret, sharpening blades and whispering vengeance. The lion's pride was not so easily tamed. At Winterfell, Robb received his father's letters with fury. They burn. Our mother's kin, and still we speak of peace. His voice carried in the great hall. The bannermen of the north pounded the tables, hungry for war. Great John Umber roared, "Let the lions come. We will flay their pride from their bones." Robb clenched his fists, torn between duty to his father's caution and the blood of the north that demanded retribution. In King's Landing, tension seeped into every hall. Sansa clung tighter to her dream of Joffrey, blind to the truth that war might tear her family apart. Arya, restless and fiery, begged Sario for harsher lessons. "I must be ready," she told him. Sario only nodded, his dark eyes knowing more. Then he spoke. Catelyn returned again, her heart heavy with anger. She confronted Ned in his chambers. "Your peace is shattered, Ned. My father's people are slaughtered while you guard secrets and bow to lions. How many more must die before you act?" Ned's shoulders sagged under the weight of her words. "I sought to protect our children, Cat, but perhaps in sparing them the sword, I have put the whole realm at risk." Meanwhile, in the shadows, Varys and Littlefinger wove their webs. Varys whispered to Ned that enemies gathered on every side, and only swift justice could hold the realm together. Littlefinger, with his mocking smile, offered another path. "You see, my lord, peace and war are not so different. Both require allies, and allies can be betrayed. Choose wisely, or you'll find the lions are not your only threat." Cersei, too, sharpened her plans. To her children, she spoke of wolves who would never be true friends. To Jaime, she whispered, "If Stark moves against father, we must strike first. His daughters will serve as our shields, his honor as our noose." Jaime only smirked, but his hand rested uneasily on his sword. The city itself began to sense the fracture. Merchants hoarded goods, fearing war. Gold cloaks looked to their captains for orders, uncertain of where their loyalties lay. Every feast in the Red Keep carried the stench of tension. Smiles painted over suspicion. Ned Stark walked alone in the Godswood that night, staring at the heart tree's red leaves. He thought of the north, of Robb waiting, of Jon Snow at the wall, of Bran and Rickon still young, of Arya fierce, of Sansa dreaming. He thought of his promise to protect them all, and he knew the truce was dead. The choice now would not be between peace and war, but between truth and survival. The next council meeting would decide more than justice for one night. It would decide whether the realm slid into fire, and Ned, torn between honor and caution, would soon have to act knowing whichever road he chose, the wolves and lions would finally bare their teeth. The summons went out for Sir Gregor Clegane, but no reply ever came. Instead, word returned that the mountain rode freely under Tywin's command, gathering more men. The Riverlands bled openly now. Ned stood in the council chamber, his hand resting on the table, his voice low but firm. Then Tywin Lannister defies the crown itself. Cersei's smile was cold as frost. My father does what is needed to protect his people. Would you condemn him for strength, Lord Stark, when others hide behind words? Renly rose angrily. Strength. He slaughters women and children. If this is strength, it is the strength of butchers. Even Stannis, who often stayed silent, muttered, a king who allows such defiance is no king. Robert, red-faced and weary from drink, bellowed for silence. I will not be lectured like some child. Tywin may answer, or he may not, but I'll not march half the realm to war while I sit here. You, Ned, you will fix this. You're the hand. Do it. The crown's weakness was plain for all to see. The king's words were nothing but echoes now, and Ned bore the weight of power without the authority of the crown behind him. That night, Catelyn confronted him again. She held a letter in her hands, her face pale with fury. They burned another village, Ned. They cut down Tully men in the fields, and still you cling to peace. Our people bleed while you hold your tongue. Ned's voice cracked under the strain. Do you think I do not know? Do you think I do not see the lions circling? But if I name their crimes openly, war will follow, and our daughters will be the first to pay the price. Catelyn's eyes softened, but her words were sharp. War will come whether you name it or not. Tywin has already chosen. The question is whether you meet it as a Stark of Winterfell, or as a man who let fear decide. For him, in the north, Robb gathered his bannermen without waiting for further command. The Umbers, the Karstarks, the Mormonts all spoke of the lion's treachery and swore to answer it. Though he still honored his father's wish for caution, the boy grew restless. If we wait too long, he told his lords, we will fight. On their terms, not ours. In King's Landing, the truce dissolved quietly, like smoke in the wind. Sansa clung harder to her dream, convinced her marriage would bind Stark and Lannister forever. Arya, sharper-eyed, saw the danger growing and whispered to Syrio, if they come for us, I will not run, I will fight. Syrio only nodded, for he too sensed the storm. Varys came to Ned in secret. His words were soft but heavy. My lord, you must understand, when lions and wolves fight, it is not the highborn who suffer most. It is the small folk crushed beneath. If you wish to save them, act wisely, but act soon. Littlefinger, ever sly, approached Ned with another path. You see, Stark, the game is about choosing the right side at the right time. Perhaps you should think of joining the lions, fully your house to theirs. Bind yourself with their power. Or, if you cannot stomach that, then find other allies. Either way, standing alone will break you. Ned refused him, but the words clung to his thoughts like burrs. Alone, that was the truth of it. He was alone in a court of knives. Cersei, emboldened by her father's defiance, began to move openly. She filled the court with Lannister guards, whispered of treason to her allies, and reminded her son daily that the throne would soon be his. To Joffrey, she said, when the day comes, you must not hesitate. A king who hesitates is no king at all. And then came the letter that tore away the last shred of peace. From the Riverlands rode a raven-bearing hoster, Tully's seal. The words inside were bitter and final. The lions burn our fields, they slay our men. If the north does not stand, the riverlands will stand alone. Ned held the letter in his hands for a long while. He looked out over the city, where banners still flew and people still walked the streets. Unaware of how close the kingdom was to ruin, he thought of Robb in the north, already calling the banners. He thought of Jon beyond the wall. He thought of his daughters in this city of vipers. The choice was gone. Peace was dead. When he walked into the council the next morning, his voice was like winter. The truce has ended. Tywin Lannister has broken faith. We may try to call it peace, but war is already here, and the wolves of the north will not sleep. Through it, the lions had roared. The wolves had bared their teeth. The last act was about to begin. The Red Keep stood heavy with silence. The raven from Riverrun had shattered the illusion that the realm still rested in peace. The council chamber was tense as Ned Stark spoke the truth aloud. War had already begun. Whether the crown admitted it or not, Cersei's eyes glittered with fury, though she wore her smile like a mask. You speak of war, Lord Stark, but it is you who dragged the realm toward it. Perhaps it is not my father who defies the crown, but you who seek to pit wolves against lions. Renly rose to his feet, his voice sharp. Your father burns the riverlands, and still you dare speak of loyalty. If the king does not act, then the lords will, and they will not forgive Lannister crimes. Stannis glared across the table, silent but seething, his hatred of Cersei plain. Robert, swollen from drink and weariness, waved them all into silence. Enough, gods, I'm sick of this squabbling. Tywin, Stark, Tully, Baratheon, all of you think yourselves kings. Well, I am king, and I'll have no more of this. But even as he spoke, his voice rang hollow. Everyone in the chamber knew. Robert's strength was gone. He no longer commanded the realm. His crown was only an empty weight on his head. After the meeting, Cersei gathered her allies in secret. Her voice was cold as steel. Stark will not yield. He will come for us. Sooner or later, if the king will not act, then we must. Jaime, gather men you trust. The hand must be dealt with before he unmasks us. In his chambers, Ned wrote letters through the night, calling the North and Riverlands to readiness. He knew the truce had cost him dearly. He had bought time, yes, but not safety. His honor had been bent, and in the end, the peace he built was ashes in his hands. He stared at his daughters as they slept, whispering, "Forgive me. I wanted to keep you safe, but the game gives no mercy." In Winterfell, Robb received his father's raven and rose before his bannermen. The lions have broken faith, the riverlands bleed. We will not wait for them to bring fire to our own lands. Summon the banners, the North rides to war. The great hall shook with the pounding of fists and the roar of voices. The wolf was awake. Back in King's Landing, Arya grew restless, practicing with needle in the shadows of the Red Keep. Sansa still clung desperately to her dream of Joffrey, not seeing the danger in his eyes. Syrio warned Arya quietly, "The time will come when you must choose to run or to fight. Be ready." And so the final thread snapped. The riverlands burned, the North marched, the lions sharpened their claws, and the throne itself stood weak beneath a fading king. The peace Ned Stark had tried to save with silence was gone forever. On the morning the Goldcloaks shifted their loyalty and Lannister men filled the streets. Ned knew the cost of his choice. By choosing peace with lions, he had delayed the war but not stopped it. And now, when the storm finally broke, It came heavier, sharper, and more merciless than before. The wolves and the lions no longer walked side by side. They rushed at each other with fangs and claws bared, and the 7 kingdoms would drown in fire and blood. Ned Stark, standing in the Red Keep with his honor and his family at stake, whispered one last time to himself, "Winter is coming."